The city of Tehran was alive with the hum of traffic, blaring horns, and the constant throb of life. But in her quiet apartment in District 3, Layla Sadeghi sat at her desk, staring at a weathered envelope that had no return address. It had been slipped under her door just 2 nights ago. At first, she thought it was a mistake, perhaps an old neighbor's mail, but the handwriting was deliberate, elegant, written in black ink, with the softness of someone who had much to say but feared being heard. Before starting, friends, subscribe now and click on bell icon for latest videos. Thanks! Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper with only one line written in Persian. In the mountains of Maragay, our daughters bleed in silence. And beneath that, a verse from the Quran. And do not kill the soul which Allah has forbidden, except by right. Quran 6:151. There was no signature, no clue to the writer's identity. But Layla knew enough. She had heard the rumors. She had seen a single mention of this strange practice once before during her university days. Female circumcision in Iran. She had dismissed it then as a misreported myth. But now she couldn't ignore it. Layla was not just a journalist. She was a truth seeker, a woman raised in faith and intellect. She wore her black hijab with dignity and pride, but her soul carried the weight of curiosity and responsibility. She packed lightly her Quran, a voice recorder, a travel journal, and her press ID. Her plan was clear: travel north to Maragay, find the truth, and expose what no one else dared touch. What she didn't know yet was that she was walking into a place that even time had forgotten. A village cloaked in silence, bound by generations of fear, and hiding a truth darker than she could imagine. After hours of travel across highways and narrow roads, Layla's bus dropped her at the base of the Sahand Mountains. From there, she hired an old driver with a jeep to take her deeper into the rural heart of the
रास्ते की परवाह करूंगा तो
green gave way
मंजिल बुरा
to
बन जाएगी।
and civilization slowly disappeared in the rearview mirror. By dusk, she arrived at a secluded village of barely 30 homes. It was a quiet place, trapped between the embrace of the mountains and the silence of its own people. Children played in the women moved like shadows, fully covered, their eyes avoiding Layla's gaze. Men watched her with a mix of suspicion and confusion. At the village masjid, Layla met Maulana Yusuf, a frail man with a long white beard and weary eyes. "You have no family here," he said coldly. "Why are you in Maragay?" "I've come to learn," Layla said calmly. "I write about traditions, about culture, about women." The Maulana's expression changed subtly, but his tone remained distant. "Then do not write lies about us. We are believers. We live by the Quran. I believe that too," Layla replied, her voice steady. He paused, then nodded slightly. "Stay at the widow Zainab's house. She will not ask questions." Zainab was in her 50s, with deep lines etched into her face like the canyons surrounding the village. She offered Layla a corner room in her modest home, fed her warm flatbread and lentil soup, and said very little. But that night, something changed. As Layla sat outside under the moonlight, she saw a small girl, no more than 10, staring at her from across the courtyard. Her eyes were wide and haunted. Layla waved gently. The girl hesitated, then stepped forward. "My name is Nida," she whispered. Layla smiled. "That's a beautiful name. Are you from here?" Nida nodded. Layla waited, and then, quietly, Nida said, "Tomorrow, it is my sister's turn." "Turn for what?" Layla asked gently. But Nida only said, "She is scared. They say it will make her pure." The next morning, Nida was gone. Layla knew this was no ordinary festival. Something ancient was being prepared, and someone had called her here for this. On the third day, Layla was invited, though it felt more like being summoned, to an underground room beneath the home of Haja Khadijeh, the village's oldest woman and midwife. The room was cold, lit by a single bulb swinging from the ceiling. There were carpets on the floor, and in the center lay a wooden chest. Inside the chest were old knives, scissors, cotton, and bottles of rose water. Layla's stomach turned. Haja Khadijeh, a thin woman with sunken eyes and strong hands, looked at her with quiet contempt. "Why are you here, daughter of cities?" she asked. "To understand," Layla said. "To know what is done in the name of faith." The old woman laughed. "This is not done for faith. It is done for control." Layla stared. "Then why still do it?" "Because our men believe a woman with desire is a woman of shame," Haja Khadijeh whispered. "Because it is easier to cut a child than teach a man." Layla felt a fire rise in her throat, but she stayed silent. The ritual was tomorrow, and she had to stop it. The next morning, Layla was awakened by the distant sound of drums. A strange celebration was underway. The Festival of Purity, they called it. Outside, men gathered in the courtyard, dancing in traditional Azerbaijani style, their feet stamping rhythmically into the earth. But the women, they were missing. Zainab refused to look Layla in the eye. "They've taken her," she said, her voice breaking. "They took Nida's sister at dawn." Layla rushed through the alleyways, heart pounding. She found the gathering in the old wash house, a building hidden behind vines and heavy stone walls. Inside, 4 girls sat in a row, dressed in white, legs trembling beneath their robes. The air reeked of clove oil and fear. Haja Khadijeh stood at the front, gloved hands holding a blade. One girl was crying silently. Another had fainted. "Stop this!" Layla shouted. "This is not Islam! This is violence!" Gasps echoed through the room. But no one moved. Then a voice rose from behind her. "Neda, let my sister go." One of the women stepped forward. "This has been done for generations. My mother. Her mother. It keeps them pure." "Pure for what?" Layla cried. "For marriage? For shame? What purity is left when you scar the body Allah created whole?" There was hesitation. Doubt crept into their eyes. But Haja Khadijeh glared. "Leave, city woman, or bleed with them." Layla backed out, but she didn't retreat. She had a plan. That night, Layla used a borrowed phone from a young shepherd who studied in Tabriz. She contacted Ustadha Fatima Darvishi, a scholar of Islam, respected for her deep knowledge and her courage to confront tradition with truth. "I need you in Marageh," Layla whispered. "They're cutting girls tomorrow." "I'll be there before sunrise," the Ustada replied. True to her word, Ustada Fatima arrived veiled and composed. She wore a green abaya and carried nothing but a Quran and a printout of Sahih Hadith. The women of the village gathered around her, some out of curiosity, others out of suspicion. "Let me ask you," the Ustada began gently, "where in the Quran does Allah ask you to cut your daughters? Where in the Hadith does the Prophet, peace be upon him, say to wound a girl to make her modest?" The courtyard was silent. She continued. "The Prophet said, 'Do not harm yourself or others.' He honored women. He uplifted them. He said, 'Paradise lies at the feet of your mother.' Then how can you justify hurting a daughter?" Tears rolled down Zainab's face. She whispered, "I thought it was sunnah." "It is not," the Ustada said. "This is a custom of fear, not faith, and fear is the enemy of mercy." The next day, the girls were not taken to the ritual. The wooden box was burned, and Haja Khadijeh, once the gatekeeper of the practice, sat silently on her prayer mat, whispering, "Tasbih," her lips trembling. "I didn't know," she said to Layla. "I thought I was preserving honor." "You were preserving pain," Layla replied, kneeling beside her. "But now you can preserve dignity instead." A council was formed. The ustada stayed in the village for a week, teaching the women. Layla documented everything, not with a camera, but with her pen. But she didn't publish it. Not yet. "This story isn't finished," she wrote in her journal. "The scars don't fade with fire. They fade with faith. The right kind." Back in Tehran, Layla returned to her apartment, the envelope still pinned to her wall. Months passed. Then one day, she received a package. Inside was a small stitched cloth from Maragay, and a note. "Thank you for saving my sister." Neda alongside it, a Quran, gifted by Ustada Fatima, with a verse underlined, "And we have certainly honored the children of Adam." Surah Al-Isra, 1770. Layla smiled. She had gone to find a hidden truth. But what she uncovered was greater: the power of knowledge to undo centuries of silence, and the courage of girls who refused to bleed for someone else's shame. Layla never forgot Maragay. Over the years, she visited again and again, not as a journalist, but as a sister. The girls she once saw trembling in white now studied at the learning center built by Ustada Fatima. The practice was gone, replaced by Quran circles, sewing programs, and healthcare training. In time, Layla finally wrote her piece, not naming the village, but describing the journey. "To the girls of the shadows, you were born whole, you were born sacred, and no blade, no fear, no false piety will change that. This is your body, this is your deen, and both were meant to be honored, not harmed." The article was translated into 7 languages. It was read in universities, discussed in conferences, and quoted in mosques. But for Layla, none of that mattered more than a single line written on the back of a child's drawing sent to her years later. "Because of you, I run without pain." Fateme, age 12. Friends, the real Sunnah. In a lecture in Qom, Layla once spoke before an audience of young students. A boy asked, "But why do people think Islam asks for this?" She replied, "Because people confuse culture with command, pain with piety, and silence with truth. But our Prophet, peace be upon him, he brought light, not wounds. He brought wisdom, not scissors. That is the real Sunnah. That is the only one we must protect." If you like this video, then subscribe now and click on bell icon for latest videos. Thanks.